Testing one, two, three. I think we should call this my cozy fall talk. So I'm super excited that fall is finally coming to Texas. I tried to hang up some leaf decorations, but I'm not quite tall enough to drape it the way I like, so it kind of looks a little bit bootleg at the moment, but I hope you would forgive me because, yes, I'm here once again after an exam, so where I have the most time to kind of lollygag before feeling bad. And in today's video slash personal diary, I wanted to talk about why women in relationships gain weight. And I guess that's not a so cozy thing for fall. Yes, we have trends like sweater weather, but I've been in a place where I am happy or enjoying getting to know somebody. I realize I've been enjoying getting to know this person since July. It is now October. It will literally be November in like 3 days. So that is at least a 3-ish month period. And in that time, or not in that time, but more so in the past few days, week or two, I've noticed that my shape, my physique isn't quite where it's always been. And I don't have a problem with my weight changing per se because I know that it won't stay constant throughout this life unless I work super duper hard like some people do to remain the same weight, such as my grandmother or such as people that were models and were used to really tough and really strict diets and that helped them to be the best in what they were doing. But I'm not my grandma and I'm also not a supermodel. So it's not like I have to do those things and I have to be that way. However, I do think it is important to consider the background or the psychology of why women in relationships gain weight. And we're just going to call this mostly the background because I haven't done that much research about it, but I've noticed some important and key trends in my life, and maybe hopefully I can help you too. I didn't want to be the person that puts everything about my life on the interwebs. You don't get a picture of the person. Not trying to be rude, I just wanted to keep that a little bit clear. More so, I really want to go into the mindset of why this can happen. I think there's several reasons. One, when you forget that you have to put in the work. So I don't know if you've seen the show Nobody Wants This. It is literally my favorite show, and I think it is honestly what gives me the confidence or the desire to make a video today. A key concept that happens in season 2, and no spoilers, I do think I'll make a whole video about it soon because I've made one before and it is still one of my favorite shows. I love the conversations in it. However, in this season, one of the characters explores the concept of they don't have to put in the work anymore. Initially, she has a love interest. Not really. She just wanted someone to be interested in her. And the person wasn't interested in her because he felt like, I don't know if he ever says this to her, but this is what I got from their conversation and interaction, that she was too shallow. After that, she doesn't seek new relationships. She kind of falls back on an old one, which I don't think there's really that much wrong with it. But however, in the old relationship or this person that she's known for quite some time just hasn't engaged with them in any type of romantic sense. She didn't put in any work into getting to know the person or into building the relationship. I think in our lives and women's lives that when they get into a relationship that someone is treating you very well and someone is very kind, someone can have the tendency to stop putting in work. And that could mean stop putting in work to career, to academics, to beauty, to health, to lifestyle. And yeah, you can put in works to beauty. I feel like that's kind of an important thing because white teeth is not necessarily a healthness measure, but it still is something that you can put in work and achieve. So yeah, she doesn't put in work anymore. And she just lets the relationship like kind of carry her and direct where she's going in life and be the source of her happiness. And I want to say that there's nothing wrong with that, but there's so many things wrong with that. Something very wrong with the concept of you get into a relationship when you're perfect. Relationships, because you especially don't know this person that you're in a relationship with, like you can't know anyone completely. It requires someone to have the mindset of being willing to constantly work. So, yeah, maybe constantly work to get to know someone, but also constantly work to still be your own person. Because Oftentimes, the reason why someone gains interest in another person is because there's a layer of curiosity and there's a layer of mystery. And mystery not meaning that you're aloof or hard to understand, but mystery more so being that there's multiple layers to you that somebody wants to find out. But if you stop putting in work to yourself just because you enter a relationship, you lose your layers. I don't know what an onion without layers is called, but I guess it's not an onion. Maybe a beet, something like that. And I don't like beets. So I think that's the key number one factor that in a relationship or any phase of life, it kind of requires that mindset to always be willing to continue to put in the work. Okay, and I suppose this video is just going to be a long tangent of points related to this, but I realized that whenever my person kind of came into my life, I didn't throw my diet out the window, but I accommodated my diet to theirs. They're from a very different background from me and grew up eating very different things than me, such as macaroni and cheese and grits and things like that. And those were just things that I never grew up eating. And they're things that I'm still not particularly interested in. But it's more so like I wanted to be able to pick places that we could kind of both enjoy, but it took me away from the things that like I truly loved. And it didn't mean that I couldn't do the things that I truly loved. It just meant that maybe I'd overcompensated. It just meant that maybe I had put in a little bit too much into not focusing on my diet as much. I think my diet gave me something that I could principally fall back on a day-to-day basis. And I think lots of women's diets give them something they can fall back on. Think of the ice cream dilemma. You know, when someone has broken up with somebody, or maybe they're just going through a hard time in life, they fall back on ice cream. Ice cream is that reliable thing that sits in the bottom of the freezer and is just waiting to be beckoned and called on to assist out with the life problem. But ice cream is a constant, and ice cream is a staple, and ice cream is something that represents an emotional state. And in the same way, my diet pre person represented a very key emotional state for myself. The key state being that I was focused on my wellness, but I was also focused on having a daily pattern that built me. Not just built glutes or abs, built like mental clarity, built strength, built discipline. And let me give you an example of what that daily diet was before the person like really kind of came into my life. The diet consisted of at least having one protein shake per day. My goal was never really to get into like 100, 150. It was to stay at 80 because I am really busy with school and life and whatnot. But 80 is better than nothing. And 80 is better than hopefully getting at least 20 in. You get what I'm saying? 80 is something. 80 is also like halfway to the goal, a little bit more than halfway to the goal of 150 grams of protein. And so what I would do is I would have a 30-gram protein shake a day. Breakfast. That was cereal with protein granola by the Kodiak Bear Company, or I'd have a cup of Greek yogurt, which was like 20 grams of protein as well, as long as I had enough yogurt. And it was mostly the plain one and no added sugar. And then for dinner, I would have something along the lines of chicken or something that's a red meat, but like having a sufficient portion that gets me to that 20-30 range. Um, and the point of the food was not to be well seasoned. So it's like, oh, this is not fun food. This is just food that is sustaining me and is also making sure I can eat constantly at the same time each day, day in and day out. And I really did enjoy that. And I kind of lost it. And the next point I want to make is about beauty routines. So I'm a black woman. I have black hair. And also, I'm a woman still. So I wear makeup. And I think a lot of us come to relationships where it's like, oh, you look so pretty with no makeup on. You look so pretty when you're wearing a sporty outfit and you're not wearing any makeup, all that stuff. You look so pretty without makeup dilemma. And I think we see this with celebrities that whenever they're a couple like rushing to the grocery store, the celebrity's face is like what some people might describe as ghostly pale looking, and it just means that they're not wearing any makeup, so no rouge. But I think the practice of putting makeup on regularly, not daily, and not as a masking mechanism, but putting on at least the very basic of rouge and lip gloss. Like rouge, yes, it's a French word for red, but in many cultures, especially the more classical, um, egalitarian, Victorian cultures, rouge and makeup, like this was a sign of wealth. This was also to be a sign of that a woman was fertile. And it's kind of that essence of like there's blood racing through the face, like they have a vitality about them. And so I think for a long time, rouge has always been a staple within the makeup industry. Blood rouge, also known as blush, or I think that's the only name that really goes by. But I think now rouge has also come to like a greater complexity, from blush to highlighter to bronze. All these things that go on your cheek. Like think about it. So many more things go on your cheek than like go on your forehead, nose, or lips. Like why? Because cheeks like have an essence of like this person is alive. Cheeks are what move when someone is smiling and all this stuff. So it definitely plays a larger role into how someone looks on a day in and day out basis. And with the she looks pretty in the morning or she looks pretty without makeup dilemma, it kind of takes away that practice of remembering to embrace that thing that makes you look like you're vivid and or you're like colorful, because yeah, that person can see all the colors that make you wonderful on the inside. But what about presenting yourself to the rest of the world and engaging with the rest of the world? I think most of us love to go outside because the world is a colorful place. And I think it's only fair if we contribute a little bit of color as well. I think that last point became a little bit abstract, but hopefully you got what I meant. So, closing points, as if this was a video essay that I was submitting to somebody. Being in a relationship is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I hope everyone gets to experience, and I hope everyone watching this gets to experience. Because if you came this far, you're a girl who probably just loves being a girl, just like me. But I don't want you to lose yourself, like ever. I don't want you to lose yourself in any way. I want you to continue to fight for what you want, and fight not just to be seen by someone that loves you, like as a romantic partner, but to live in this space of where you constantly want to discover and love new things about yourself, where you're constantly seeking what is new for you and what is new for you to experience with the people around you. I hope this podcast episode, why am I calling this a podcast? I hope this video diary episode brought you a little bit of light today. But anyway, have a blessed and productive day. Bye. Oh, and super random point, but I think it's super important, at least to my paradigms and my character shifts that I've experienced in life. Being attracted to yourself is also very important. It's like wildly important. For example, I only started wearing the color red this past year because I saw a black female YouTuber who was wearing red, and she wore a lot of red, and she was also a life coach. And I think red for her very much embodied that sense of boldness and powerful. I am more of a pink girly, but I do see red as in being willing to be the villain in someone's story, but being willing to be truly yourself. I hope that is also communicated through today's video as well. Okay, bye.